Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. In this short video, we're going to talk about the Great Depression. What was it, and how do we eventually get out of it? So what was the Great Depression? Well, the Great Depression was the worst economic collapse in our history. And it began after the stock market crash in 1929. And so we've got a photo here kind of showing the human face to the Great Depression. Yes, our economy is bad. That impacts real people, right? We've got two guys here and here. They basically have resumes on their person, on their across their jacket, wanting a job. Family man, got their age, got their history. These are two people that should be employed but cannot find employment because the economy has tanked. Let's take a look at some of the major effects of the Great Depression. When the Depression happens, how did that impact people? Well, first of all, unemployment. That's a big one. 1 in 4 people did not have a job, which is crazy, 25%. At the worst part of the Depression, 25% of the country could not find work. This also impacts businesses. Businesses were forced to close because nobody had money to spend anymore. There wasn't, this free flow of cash, and so businesses didn't have anything to sell. Another effect of the Great Depression is foreclosures. And what a foreclosure means is basically losing your home or your property, like a farm or a business. If you can't pay your rent, your mortgage to the bank will eventually take back that property. That's what happened to lots of people. And another effect, when people lost their homes, some of them had to move to what is called Hoovervilles, which we'll look at on the next slide. These are basically homeless communities that grew outside of these big cities. So people could not afford their house anymore, so they moved to these basically shacks in the areas outside of the city. They didn't want to leave the city because they're still looking for jobs, but they didn't have a home to go to. We'll talk about why they're called Hoovervilles in just a moment. But as you can see, the last bullet point here is pretty clear. A big effect of the Great Depression is a lot of poverty and a lot of food insecurity. Because of course, if you lose your home, lose your job, finding your next meal is scary. Let's look at this graph of unemployment during the Great Depression. As the numbers go up on the y-axis here, you'll see unemployment is worse, right? The worst point is here in 1933, where 25% are unemployed, right? That's historic. 1 in 4 people cannot find a job in 1933. And we see that illustrated by this photograph over here. On the right-hand side, this is a billboard. Jobless men keep going. We can't take care of our own. It's really highlighting what's going on here. These are people who are, they're trying to find work, and this community, wherever it is, has basically put up a sign that says, keep looking, we don't have jobs for you. We also notice starting in 1938, unemployment starts to go down and stays down. There's a couple of reasons for this. We'll look at the policy side in just a minute. What's going on legislatively? What is the president doing? What is Congress doing? But we also have some historical clues as to why unemployment is getting better here. And if you look at the dates, 1939 to 1945, that will probably remind you of something we've talked about before, and that is World War II. The Second World War is going on during this time. We are making lots of stuff. We are employing lots of people in the military. We need to create weapons and factories. Our economy explodes and it becomes very productive again. So, there's no one thing that everyone agrees on as to why the economy gets better, but certainly World War II helped. Here's a picture of those Hoovervilles I had mentioned earlier. Those shacks, those homeless communities that pop up outside of the big cities as people lost access to their homes. You can see here from this photograph that they're very basic. We're looking at shacks. We're looking at places without electricity or plumbing or any of those commodities, I guess, that you'd expect from a house. This is basically just a shelter from the elements. And you can just see from the scale here how many people are losing their homes. And real quick, the reason they're called Hoovervilles is because of the president at the time, Herbert Hoover. So it's right there in the name. Let me make a little bit more contrast there. There's his name. He is president at the time of the Depression starting, and a lot of people blame him for not really doing enough to get people out and to protect people from the economic collapse that was going on. And so sort of to make fun of him, they decided to name what we're looking at here, this example of poverty, after the president they blamed for putting them there, Herbert Hoover. All right, so the Great Depression is a no good, very bad time. How do we get out of it, right? Where do we go from here? How do things get better? Well, we got to give credit to the New Deal. The New Deal is a bunch of programs launched by the president, FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt. We've heard his name before. He is also president during World War II. In fact, this dude is president for 12 years. Crazy. We do not allow our presidents to stay in office that long anymore, but back in the 30s and 40s, this was allowed. He was obviously very popular. He got elected 4 times. It's not too surprising to see that FDR wins this election against Herbert Hoover, who was president as the Depression hit in 1929. I'm going to take a look at the sign here. If you like the Depression and want more, vote Hoover. Definitely not a guy with a lot of momentum. And FDR comes in and promises to get us out of this depression. And we'll see how he does that in the next slide. FDR's plan to get us out of the Great Depression is called the New Deal. And we can categorize all the laws that he helped pass and agencies he created into 3 categories. We've got relief, recovery, and reform. There are a lot of different laws and agencies created during this time period. I'm not going to hit you with all of those laws and agencies just yet. I just want us clear on these 3 categories. So when I'm talking about relief, R number 1 of the New Deal, we're talking about ways the government can help people. How can we help people who are suffering from the Great Depression? When we're talking about recovery, we're talking about helping the economy. Somewhat legible there. How can we help recover? How can we help the economy get better and improve? And then finally, we've got reform, which is even a sort of bigger systemic look at how do we fix the system, right? We have a system here that allowed this complete collapse and this crash of the stock market, which really devastated not just our country, but the whole world. So how do we reform and fix our system to stop that from happening again? We will talk more about the different laws that are passed, and we'll do a sorting activity to put them in the right category. But those are the overview categories. We've got relief, recovery, and reform, the 3 R's of the New Deal. That's going to be it for this video today. I know that was a lot. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and I'll catch y'all next time.